Hey guys, so we're going to do a quick professional development. Most of you here at Roberts Academy have taken this course because most of you have this master's degree in transformational classroom environment. So this is just a quick reminder of kind of where we want to go as teachers, our goal, our focus. So I was trying to think of a way that we can kind of lighthearted start would be more like, since we're just getting over the summertime, and I know a lot of us have traveled. We probably heard this phrase before in our vehicle. Mom, Dad, are we there yet? I remember saying those words, wondering if we're going to get to our destination, wondering if if it's going to end, because it was so boring just to look at the mile markers. It felt like we were never involved. We all wanted to get there, but Mom and Dad were doing all the work, and we were just kind of hanging out in the back, watching them, So this kind of reminded me of the two-style approach to the classroom. Admittedly, I am gonna say I'm probably in the two style as well. I want to go to the one style approach, where kids are self-directed, where they're taking responsibility for their education. They're progressing through the curriculum. They're learning. They love learning. They're intrinsically motivated. That's something we all want as teachers. But I don't know. For me, I keep falling back to the default mode. Well, it's just easier if I control it. It's easier if I lead it, because if I lead it, there won't be any chaos. It's gonna be structured. And the problem is, it's all on us. We have to do all the work. So I want us to take a look at the transformative classroom. Starting with the end in mind. As we start a new school year, what are some things that we can put in place to make that transition from a two-style to a one-style approach? Can we even do that? I mean, is it even logical or realistic? I know in this school, we have some challenges, of course. One of the big things that we're known for is we have the OG. And I don't teach it, I know you all do. And with OG, it is teacher-centered. It is teacher-led. But I wonder if there's some aspects that can be changed in that to where a student can lead maybe some of those things. I don't know. Something to think about as we traverse through these slides. I'll try to be as brief as I can. I'll just read parts of the slide. I won't read everything. There is a lot here, and I apologize. But I think it's important for me to kind of go through it, for you to listen, maybe be reminded. All of this comes from chapter 15 of John Shindler's text, his book. So let's get started. So we contemplate the new year. We're thinking, okay, what are some things that are going to come out at us? I put this up. It says, what kind of teacher do we want to be this year? Do we want to go back to default, go back to what we did last year? Hey, last year worked out great. It's fine. I put a picture of myself in there. This is me when I was 4 in 1980. These are some of my students. This is me as a teacher over here. And I have to think back to my experiences. I have to think, what worked well in my classroom as a student growing up. I've never been in a style one approach, a one style approach classroom. I don't think that's ever happened. I've been definitely in the 4 style approach, where you're being yelled at and you're holding the pencil and you're scared. I haven't been in a 3 style approach. I've been in a 2 style approach pretty much most of my college years, but never a 1 style. So this is, for me, very foreign. And I don't know, maybe for some of you it might be the same. I don't want to assume, but. So the transformative classroom, chapter 15 of John Shindler's book on transformative classroom management. So we're trying to implement the one-style approach and create a classroom community. And you can see here in this road, it looks beautiful, it looks great, but we don't quite know where the road's going to lead us. We don't know what's beyond that hill right here. Are we going down? Is it going to be a crazy ride? Will the brakes work? I don't know. And again, we can go back to default. We can have a Tesla and let the car drive us, and we'll be okay. We've done this route before. We just plug in our coordinates, and we're good to go. That is the temptation, for sure. We got a lot on our plates. Why do something new? It's been working in the past, right? So the one-style approach. Really, Mr. Friendly, really you're gonna hit us with this? Right before you go back to school, you're gonna hit us with this. You know that can't work here, right? You do understand what happens here at Roberts Academy, right? Yeah, I do. The reason why I picked this chapter, one of the reasons why, is because I've repeated this phrase a lot. I said, well, that's normal. That happens a lot. You know, these kids, they're middle schoolers, you know, they say those things. They're mature. They're stuck on that idea. They're, you know, X, Y, and Z. Whenever bad happens, I would say, well, you know, that's normal. It happens. It happens, you know. I like this quote on page 307. It says, natural is what is possible, and it feels the truest to our nature. Normal is what happens by accidental conditioning. If we do nothing towards achieving the natural, we get normal. Normal is characterized to a great extent by dysfunction. So, yeah, that's normal. But is it natural? Okay, so this curriculum, this chapter, basically takes a combination of two things. It takes the characteristics of a one-style approach with characteristics of a classroom community. Now, you can see the list here. They pretty much, there's a lot of similarities. But the one thing I wanted to kind of point out was the classroom community, it also has an additional membership, shared identity, common purpose and goals, communal bonds, and in addition, social bonds, and also lastly, traditions, rituals, and history. And I think for us here at Roberts Academy, because we have Morton Gillingham approach to reading for the kids here who have dyslexia, I think because the kids know they have that common bond with one another, I think that does help with the community. And I think that's why we have something special here. And I really do feel like we've got something great here. And I think we can just improve upon that. So let's talk about the basic requirements of potential community. It's intention. We have to be intentional to what we do. We have to be aware. We have to develop our skills as teachers, and we have to be committed to follow this through. And you can see the three stages. In this chapter is primarily these three stages. The lion's share comes to stage 1, stage 2. Stage 3 is really kind of just a wrap up part of it. Stage 1 is the formation. How do we even do this? What are some things to consider? Stage 2 is the transitioning from teacher-centered to student-centered, basically having the students take control, empowering them to take control of the direction that they're going. And instead of sitting in the back seat asking those questions, are we there yet? We're asking them, are we there yet? We're asking them, hey, can you take the steering wheel? Something to think about. So, stage 1, formation. This is the management goals here are clarity and intention. These are the things that we're going to be talking about here shortly. And we'll go over it. I'm not going to belabor the point here. Okay, all right. So formation is community development. Okay, there are goals for teachers to achieve for the classroom, and it starts with safety and belonging. So from the very first day of school, right, students will initially feel out of place. They'll feel alienated from one another. But what we need to do is we need to figure out, okay, how can we get them to feel like they're safe here? You know, how do we make sure that they feel like they're loved? Because again, these are all the things that are part of their natural condition. It's natural for anybody to want to be loved, to want to feel valued and connected to what they're doing. And I think sometimes when students don't get what they need, they're going to compensate, right? They're going to act out. And we should never focus on necessarily the behavior, the one that's behaving, rather than just the behavior itself. And not let the behavior define them for what they've done, you know. Well, that kid, he steals, he's a thief. That person, he cusses a lot. He's a cussing person, you know. That person, he always hits people. You know, he always acts out. He's just, and we're labeling students. And here we don't need to do that. We just need to make sure we understand that they're compensating, trying to get attention, trying to meet some need that has not been met yet. But we have a great opportunity to help them meet that need. The next thing is we have to create an emotional safety for them. Research has shown from DeVoe that verbal abuse and bullying have increased since probably in the last 20 years for sure. He wrote that in 2004. So again, I'm part of that culture where I think, oh, that's normal. You know, bullying happens. People talk bad about each other all the time. You know, get over it. Move on. Well, we shouldn't do that. As teachers, we shouldn't accept that as the status quo. We should stop it and go, in this classroom, we don't speak negatively of each other. We speak positively. And we have to get onto that mantra of including the class into describing behaviors that are accepted, not behaviors or excuse behaviors away as like, well, that, society does do that, people do that. We normalize it. That's not natural. So we need to create emotional safety. Next, we need to promote individual membership. These kids are coming from different families, backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds. We need to make sure they feel that they're still an individual, but that they can be connected to something maybe greater than themselves. And students a lot of times get that self-worth from groups. We just make sure that they are connected to the classroom here and that there is something going on here, that they have an opportunity to lead in this class. If they're mature enough, they can get a role, they can get a responsibility in this class. Friedberg, he wrote in 1999, he's come up with 40 developmentally appropriate jobs that can be implemented. And I put his reference at the end of the slides. So if you want to find out what those are, feel free. Next, formation starts by finding out who the students are. Everyone in a class has a distinct identity, right? Not just a personality, but identity within their families, cultures. They bring that here, right? But they also have dreams, hobbies, interests. So it's important to get to know them for who they are as individuals, right? I know for me, on my seating chart in the beginning of the year, I always ask them, okay, what is your favorite hobby? What's this? And I get like a myriad of information from them. And what I do is I try to think of realistically. I pick out those things I know that have a connection with mathematics. There might be some things I'm like, I'm not sure. So if I can find something else, I'll pick those things and write that on the seating chart. So right next to the name, or like right underneath in parentheses, I write out what they like. And as we go through the curriculum, or as I'm teaching, or as I'm presenting material, I can make those connections to those individuals. You can just see their eyes just light up. What? Really? I did that not too long ago with a student who wants to be a wildlife officer. He wants to be like a game warden. And I told him about, sometimes you're going to have to use math to kind of figure out like an accident scene. Like sometimes, there's maybe like a brake skid marks, and you can actually measure the skid marks and find out how fast the car was going, things of that nature. I said, there's biology, not only just biology, but you have to figure out, you might have to use some math like measurements, milliliters, things of that nature. So I kind of went into that a little bit with him, and he was amazed. His eyes just lit up. He was like, wow. So this really does have an impact right now. So if I learn this right now, I could become that later. It'll help me. So he can make the connection. And that was important. So anyways, so you got to find out who they are. And there are a lot of different ways that you can do that. Bio poem, you can do a self-portrait, have them create a collage. There are quite a few activities that they can do to express that individualism. Next, you want to begin the year with cooperative and collaborative activities. It's essential to start the year with that because you want to kind of set the tone. So that way they know kind of what's expected. Hey, we're going to be doing activities together. So I got to get to know these people. And you want to do it in a low threat environment, according to their ability level, so they're not so frustrated. And you don't want to focus so much on, developing a new skill within the team. He's maybe the recorder, or he's the timekeeper. You don't want to focus so much on that. It's more on just promoting just that group dynamic with them experiencing one another and going, okay, this is what we're doing. And there is somewhere else in the book that talks about promoting group cohesion. Also, formation also means to cultivate social bonds and a sense of fairness. So we want to create a safe place as well as where fairness is quite apparent, right? If we're fair and we're consistent with that, they're going to feel like, okay, I can begin to buy into this concept of community because everybody's being treated fairly, the same way. I'm not going to have favoritism over here. I'm not going to have he's not going to pick on somebody over here. This person, he's always in trouble. Maybe Mr. Freeland's just going to, ignore him. No, I'm going to treat everybody the same. It's fair. Consequences are the same. So that's not going to change. So next, formation also means to make connection to our students. So not only get to know them, but we have to connect to them as well. So this is more than just being charismatic or dynamic. That's not necessarily needed. You just have to be emotionally present with them. So, obviously you want to know their names. You want to connect to them that way. You want to know, obviously, about their interests. But you want to keep an open door as well, so that they feel like they can talk to you. You want to keep, positive praise public, right? But you want to keep negative comments private, so they don't feel like they've been shamed. You don't want to revert back to shaming, sarcasm, teasing, or embarrassment. It's the old adage, a lot of us teachers know, students don't care what you know unless they know that you care about them. Next, formation also means that we need to concretize this concept of community. The focus here is really on creating community that's ongoing, active, right? So as we're teaching, as we're going through the curriculum, going through the days of school, we're constantly thinking of ways to make connections with what community means, not just theoretically, but practically in a practical sense. You can do this a lot of different ways. John Shindler states that this can be done through public recognitions. That teacher can do that to a student can do that to another student, public praise, self-assessments of process and participation. What I really liked was you can make part of the concept of group work, teamwork, community. You can make different themes, right? Different keywords within that. Make that a theme of the month for the class. Maybe one could be fairness. Fairness. What is fairness? This month's on fairness. Maybe next month will be on, respect, mutual respect. Maybe another will be like active listening. What does active listening mean? We're actively listening to each other. Next, we want to recognize great members. There's a caution to this. Now, John says, look, he's not big into rewards at all. But if he felt like we have to use it, then we can use it. But, we need to focus on the behavior, not the grades, not academic performances, like a quiz or, hey, you did a great job on that project, man. You nailed it. Well, what happens if others didn't feel like they nailed it? Are they less than? So we have to recognize. We might want to recognize some of those things, but we need to recognize the behavior, not so much the person. Hey, great way of listening. Students, it's great that everybody listen. When you point out the activity or you point out the behavior, you make a point about it and you move on. Really, the focus is on selfless service. That's what it's all about. That's actually one of the big key components in the military. In the Army, we talked about several different characteristics that make a great soldier. One of them is selfless service. And selfless service means you focus on the other, not on yourself. And that's what it's about. Formation also requires that we continue things that are going to work against us, right? They're going to take us back into a 2-style, maybe even a 3-style approach. So some things to think about, list of things that will undermine quickly would be like being random, inconsistent, subjective, angry, shaming others, reverting to punishments too quick, right? Praise and rewards which take any effort of intrinsic motivation away, taking you back to an extrinsic one. So you don't want to do that. You want to create a failure psychology or having this dysfunctional mindset. Students need to know that they can succeed without outright fear of failure. And also, in my mind, this isn't where everybody gets a trophy. That's not what this is about. What we're talking about is not dragging students through, the mud and muck of mistakes, right? We want them to help them move past that and not dwell on them, right? But learn from them and improve upon them by making adjustments. It's kind of like the scientific approach. You see a problem, you find a way to do it, to beat the problem or to solve the problem. You make a design, you test it, try it. If it doesn't work out, you find out what didn't work, try it again, make modifications, and on you go. You look for ways to get better, right? You don't get stuck in a rut. So, stage 2. That was stage 1. Stage 2. And again, stage 1's long. Stage 2's a little bit long too, maybe just a little bit shorter, slightly. But this is really the transition from you formally, talking about these things that are really important that drives the concept of community within the classroom. But then you also, in stage 2, it's kind of a transition piece here, where you want to go from teacher-directed to self-direction, right? And you really want to focus on community even more so here. So the second stage is transition towards self-direction and community. It's shifting students' focus on ownership and cultivating intrinsic motivation. The locus of decision making needs to be shifted more towards them as they increasingly take more forms of self-responsibility. That's important. All right, so to make this successful, we need to continue to empower students. We give them the power. A lot of times leaders or people think that leaders is by leading. No, sometimes some of the great leaders are the ones that cultivate other leaders, junior leaders, to take up their place, right? To take over. So, this isn't an abdication of our role. This isn't us giving up becoming a teacher. Let's let somebody else do it in the class. No, we're still the teacher, but they're obviously we're the facilitator of that social contract. We should never put this students in place of making decisions over the other students, but we have to feel like that we can trust them. We feel like they have to feel like that we trust them, that they're in that role of responsibility. They have that chore, that whatever it is that they're doing at that moment, that they're taking control. It's taking something that's intrinsic and making intrinsic. The locus of power, the locus of control, is not just, dependent upon the teacher. Once the student feels like they have more control than they have before, once they feel like they can take direction, it's like, again, be in the back seat of the car. You're sitting there going, well, mom and dad's, they're driving. I don't know where they're going. I don't even know what city I'm at. But if you've given the map to them and say, hey, we're mile marker 86. Where are we at? We're over here in the town of so-and-so. How much more further do we need to go to the next town? Is there a fuel stop? We need to stop and get some fuel. Is there a fuel place in the next, have them involved in your trip. Have them become co-navigators with you. There's a way for them to be involved so that they don't feel like they're just being taken for the ride, right? So we need to continue to empower students. We need to find some ways that we can make some small transitions for them to take more and more responsibility. It starts with teacher explanations, of course, to teacher-led discussions, to student-led discussions, and when they've developed all the skills that they need, to finally allowing them to initiate the problem solving. So in short, Shindler said, once we empower them with decision-making authority, that then it will help promote genuine self-direction as they take ownership of their classroom community. And that's from page 314. So we want to shift from an extrinsic recognition to an intrinsic awareness of values. So it's although it's going to be more apparent that efficiency may not be as high as a two-style approach, right? They're going to stumble, right? It's not going to be perfect. So the name of the game here is shifting their focus or attention off the external consequences. Oh, if we don't do this right, what's going to happen? Or no, not focusing so much on that, but focusing more on, the benefits of having a safe and respectful, efficient class, right? Getting them there's some ways to get them to recognize that their actions have direct impact on their environment. And then to do that sometimes is by asking reflective questions, or kind of like rhetorical. Getting them to kind of focus and maybe make connections on something that they did well, to something they can maybe do again in the future. Like this is where they can make connections for like, I'm trying to think of an example here. If they had been given a task, right? And you said, hey guys, when you did this task, I've noticed everybody listened. Everybody listened to Johnny as he was, explaining the problem, and you guys just took the ball and you ran with it. Just amazing. You guys have proven that you're able and capable of solving problems that Johnny has brought up. Amazing. Good job, guys. This is the thing that we're looking for. This is the thing that you want to make connections to. So, cultivating intrinsic motivation is best utilized when we strive to create two conditions, right? The first condition is a pedagogy that encourages engagement, collaboration, inquiry, and flow. So again, the tendency is to move backwards to intrinsic motivation, right? It's easy. I do it all the time. I get Freeland bucks. I get candy. There's a lot of things I do. But sometimes that's moving us back, and it's expected. Teacher needs to continue to be deliberative in what type of intrinsic motivation they choose. And it's noted here that the more groundwork that you do in stage 1 will pay off here more so, as we look for ways to promote their experiences with satisfaction, motivation, and a love of learning. And then the second part here is, let's get to the second part, is cultivating intrinsic motivation is developing structural conditions that promote intrinsic rather than extrinsic motivation. So this is basically where it's more the nonverbal. I think this is where he's kind of getting to. It's more the look. It's not so much what's being said out loud, right? It's like the haughty spirit that can ruin really the desire for students to be open with one another. Feeling that they can take a risk, right? So if you don't have that, if you let them engage with you, if you let them take risks and look at the value of community, of helping one another, of focusing on the other, a lot of times they'll get past that point of failure and continue to work until they find that and discover what it is that they're looking for in terms of maybe just solving that problem. I like it to connect it to the aha moment. The aha moment is just right around the corner. You have to keep driving and you'll get there. You'll see that. Transition is best achieved when the student's focus is shifted off you as the teacher. Again, this is turning that focus off. Like, it's not about me, guys. It's not about what I say, about what I do. It's about what you're learning. It's about what we're doing. What are we here to do? Right? It's getting them to focus on the larger context by cultivating a vision, right? So we're going to cultivate a vision. So cultivating a vision takes work, but it's their work. It's not our work as teachers. We have in mind what they need to do, but they do too. They come to school and they know what they have to do. And sometimes if we can help them develop that vision, they're going to be more in line with it. They're going to be more wanting to be part of that solution to carrying out the vision, right? To seeing it through. So in stage 1 formation, it says that expectations will be made clear and explicit. Here they need to be just as clear, right? A vision acts to guide a group of individuals towards collective function and purpose. It says that you've agreed to it and what principle you use to make decisions. In essence, the vision is the collective intention. And that's found on page 316. That's a quote. So we have to listen. We have to articulate. We have to listen to the needs of the group. We have to articulate the vision back to them, right? You're not along for the ride as teachers. You're involved as well. We're in this together. So transition towards us is part of the collective identity. We need to promote a healthy group identity. We need to encourage collective accomplishment. As the group becomes increasingly loyal and others-centered, the communal bonds within the group will be strengthened. Each student's need for belonging will be met more successfully. So the acting out, the compensations won't occur as much. They might still, obviously, but some cautions are in order at this point. You don't want to sacrifice individual belief in an effort to just conform, right? People are still individuals. People still have certain beliefs. But it's important not to grow their ego, right? You don't want to grow their ego within the class, right? So we don't want to give too much public praise for one individual, because sometimes that'll set them apart from the others and they go, oh, he's the one that knows it all, and they look to him for all the answers. So like that, we don't want to create a classroom where they become haughty, right? Where they're like, oh, we're better than the other classes. We're better than this class. We're better than that class, right? And then when you have that competition between classes, it might seem pretty cool, but the problem is, long-term, it's going to create a fear-based oppositional identity. Oh, we're not that class. Oh, they suck, right? So, branding's good. You want to brand. You want to have a song, motto, logo, but there are limitations to that. Again, the goal is you want to be a community within the classroom. You want to have the students depend upon one another, work together, and focus on the end goal. Towards the last part of this is the requirement for class meetings. So you want class meetings. You want students to be able to look back and go, okay, this hasn't worked out. This routine is awful. We need to figure out a way to fix it. And then, so you want the kids to kind of come together in class in like a circular, like a shape, so they can see one another. You want them to be able to use I statements, not using blaming statements. You know, I can't believe you did this and this. Take ownership for what they are doing, what they have, what they've seen. So I statements. No put downs. Personal attacks will be tolerated, of course. And then you want to make sure you have like rules. So time frame, records kept. The meeting rules should be adhered to, obviously, such as active listening, respect for another person's view, ability for a class member not being required to speak is fine. You know, sometimes maybe somebody don't want to speak. It's like I don't have anything to say, and not force them to say anything. Just let them think about it. Let them remain quiet. So it's important. It's important because you're letting the class take control and change some of the routines that haven't been working. Change some of the procedures that haven't been working. Let them take ownership of the class. Let them navigate through the curriculum with you. Not in spite of you, right? The third thing is encouragement. This is the last stage. This is the shortest stage in the book. It was pretty quick. At this stage, we are the facilitator of the class vision. Even at this stage, we can be complacent. We can take for granted all the progress that has been made, and maybe make light of future accomplishments. Like, oh yeah, that's good, Johnny. You've done it 1,000 times. You know, you don't make light of it. It is tempting for some in the class to externalize their responsibility, like wanting to give up or relent, to say, "Oh, I'm going to let somebody else take over," or you know, I don't know what to do. I'm beside myself. They're acting helpless, right? So it's important that you would guide them, maybe with some clarifying questions. We need to encourage them. We need to get them to focus on a cause beyond themselves. Because what's going to happen is, as they progress and as they're working together as a class, you don't want them to become ingrown. You know, just so focused on themselves that there's no outward expression as a group. And even as individuals, when you see it working within the classroom, like, wow, this is really working. I wonder if this can work anywhere else. And naturally, because you've trained them to do so, to work in a communal effort, they're going to take those skills that they've learned in the classroom and apply them elsewhere. So this can happen just anywhere, really. And before I go to references, like it can happen, like let's say outside the classroom, but it may not always happen, right? There might be another classroom that is a 3-style or 2-style. I know in our class, in our school, we do not have a 4-style classroom. I can promise you that. I've seen all the teachers teach here at least one lesson, and we have great teachers here. So nobody has a 4-style approach here in the school. But I would say probably maybe a 3-style. I can see that. Not going to say who, but I can see maybe it's possible. But definitely 2-style. A lot of us are 2-style, maybe 1-style. I'm definitely in the 2-style approach, and I'm trying to get towards this 1-style approach. But the one thing I've noticed is the byproduct of the 1-style approach is that students can become mentors to other students, right? They can maybe help other students going through difficult times, right? They could probably be part of a beautification group that would help maybe the school, make it look pretty, things of that nature. But there's so many things that they can do. They can maybe help lead a youth group in the church, right? They could probably be a leader or a team leader or maybe a captain of a sports team eventually down the road. There's so many benefits to the 1-style approach. It's not just for the class. It's for their life. It's for them to become better citizens, ultimately, in the community in which they live. These are the references that I have. There's quite a few of them. A lot of them are shared by the author. The author uses a lot of them, so I use a lot of the same ones. I've used other sources I've used in the past with different papers within the class and some ideas that come from that.